Good evening, everyone. The time is now 6:02. I'm calling the meeting to order. Thank you for coming out tonight to ANC 34G's regularly scheduled meeting. This is our last meeting of this calendar year, and I think we are all needing a break. So that's good news. We have a lot on the agenda. Thanks for coming out and braving this cold, and we're going to keep it to time. And I'll talk about a few community announcements as we get further down the road. Want to start out with commissioner introductions, and we'll start down to my left and go down to the right.
My name is Peter Lynch. I'm the commissioner for SMD 05. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Jim Nash, Single Member District 3. Good evening.
Peter Goslin, Single Member District 6, which is basically the west side of Connecticut with a peninsula of the east. Thanks for coming.
Lisa Gore, Single Member District 01, which is all of Hawthorne and portions of Barnaby Woods.
Bruce Sherman, good evening. Single Member District 02, which is where St. John's College High School is located, the Knollwood Retirement Facility over by Rock Creek Park. I want to welcome the constituents from my district who are here tonight. Thanks for coming.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach Ferguson. I represent Single Member District 07. I'm also the ANC's treasurer.
And Commissioner Zeldin is not with us tonight, but he will be calling in at some point. Some of you may know that his mother has been ill and she took a turn for the worse today. So he had to head back to New York on emergency, but he is going to try to make it via telephone. So he wanted you all to know that he wasn't skipping out on us and what was going on with him. So with that, commissioners, do you have any amendments to the agenda?
I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion for an amendment. I suggest we take up my version of the resolution, your friendly amendment, and Peter Lynch's draft resolution together. They basically focus on the same thing. And I think if we don't take them up together, we're going to be running back and forth across these. And I think we should take up Commissioner Sherman's afterwards. Before, I'm agnostic about when, but I think separately. I propose that as
As long as we take it up, it doesn't matter in which order.
Any commissioners? Lynch?
I'd like to be recognized by the chair to speak on this process.
I just said Commissioner Lynch.
Thank you. I didn't hear you.
Okay.
I also hope that we can make clear in the agenda that we are focusing solely on the civic core resolutions before anything else, including community comments that don't relate to the 4 resolutions.
Let me clarify that. When you say that, are you saying to move the liquor license like we talked about online? The resident form consent agenda? What do you mean specifically?
If we can get through the ABC license quickly, happy to do that. The consent agenda, I think we could do quickly. But past that, I think we should get right to the 4 resolutions in the civic core after those 2 items.
Okay, so you want us to strike the community comment 15-minute public comment period?
Not to strike it, but to delay it until we're through with the civic core discussion.
Are you guys okay with that, commissioners? Okay, commissioners in favor, raise your hand. Any nays, no abstentions? Okay, that passes. And just in terms of meeting procedures, we'll do the same thing. Community members in the audience, if you want to talk on a topic, please go to the mic to be recognized by the chair. Please refrain from shouting out loud. The people online can't hear you. And it makes for the meeting to be very tough. Folks online, please use the raise your hand function. And in terms of the adjournment tonight, it will be promptly at 8:30. Promptly at 8:30. I will shut off tape, pack up, and start heading out. 8:30. Any other community announcements for the meeting procedures? Okay. All right. So with that, the consent agenda is pretty light tonight. December 6th meeting minutes are the only thing.
We don't have,
Okay,
that's the last meeting.
okay. So there's nothing to approve on that. So turn it over to Commissioner Gosselin for wine and organics license discussion.
This is a simple renewal of an alcohol license. The owner, Evelyn Nagasi, I've spoken with her. She says there is no change from the current license and they have had no complaints. I would simply commend to you going to her store. She's brave to start a business and try to keep it alive at the far end of Connecticut Avenue. I move that we approve the renewal, support the renewal of her license before the
Is there a second? Okay. Commissioners, all in favor, raise your hand. Yep, 6-0. Motion passes. And with that, we will start straight into the Civic Core resolutions discussion, and I will turn it over to Commissioner Gosselin to discuss his resolution, which is a foundational resolution. Then we'll go into the resolutions that seek to amend that, and then we'll discuss Commissioner Sherman's resolution.
Okay, let me say that I have a hard job tonight. I have to make an argument to the community about why I think this approach to next steps about the community center library is the right one for the ANC and the right one for the community. And then I have to make an argument to my fellow commissioners that we need to preserve this resolution or something like it. And before I start making either, I'm going to clue you in on something that will make, that is, I think will upset you, but is a simple fact, which is that the bottom of the resolution as it appears on the website has changed, and it has changed because of 3 days of email communications and conversations between a group of us in the search for some common ground. Before I describe to you what those changes are, let me just briefly make the argument again that I've made in several meetings about why we should take this approach, why I think we should take this approach, and then turn to the argument that I want to address to my fellow commissioners. I understand.
Sorry, did you send that to me, the changes?
Yeah,
Because I can
that's
post
yeah,
it.
no, that's right. That's the 10:15. Yeah, okay. I understand there is a great deal of anger and upset about the way we have been treated by the city. I think nonetheless, we are a generous community. We have been asked in a strange way, but asked to help on affordable housing. And I think that it shows our generosity to continue to consider some affordable housing.
I'm going to ask you nicely, please do not interrupt and inject conversation while a person is speaking. Please don't do that. Thank you.
And the other reason is a self-protective reason. This is the first chapter in a long series of debates we're going to have about our community and about changing our community. And it's eventually going to go beyond the civic core, the community center library, to the rest of the upper Connecticut Avenue commercial corridor. And from there, it's likely to go on to the residential areas of this community. I think we are best served by trying to find an accommodation with the city. I freely admit it has been hard to date, and that's an argument for doing otherwise, but I think the best approach is this. So in short, that's my argument with regard to why I think we should take this approach. My argument to the commissioners is the following. You will see, particularly when the Chair Gore talks about her proposed changes to this foundational resolution I've drafted, that she wants to remove a lot of the material at the bottom of my resolution, both the one that is currently posted on the website and the changes we've made as a result of these conversations. the basic structure of the resolution says we've conveyed the survey results. We think nonetheless we should continue to endorse some affordable housing, some affordable housing at this site. But we think that it is very important that the community's concerns about what gets built, redeveloped here, be recognized and acknowledged and reacted to by the district. And so the bottom of the resolution raises three areas of principal concern: height, green space, green open space, and the question of public land surplusing public stewardship of the land. I understand why Chair Gore's view is that these don't. Yeah, all right. So let me just say, I think these may not quite fit with the DEMPED model of what a request for proposals is, but I think we need to state these things clearly about what the community's concerns are. And so I would argue for retaining them. Let me just briefly say the changes at the bottom, and it is up on the website, or will be up on the website shortly. As with I add Commissioner Gore's a paragraph capturing Commissioner Gore's addition, asking DEMPED to incorporate into the RFP the full results of the ANC survey, including extensive written results, as well as community preferences that came to light in past ANC meetings and the DEMPED sponsored RFP process. And there's a list of them: outdoor amenities, indoor amenities, design features, maximum building height, site density, level of affordability, and so on. In more
Point of
detail.
clarification. Chairman Goslin, are you talking about your
Chairman, I'm a commissioner.
Commissioner Goslin? My apologies, long day. Are you talking about your resolution, the original, or the ones with Chair Gore's recommendation edits?
No, I am talking about mine. I accepted and it included her, a portion of hers as paragraph 15 in the resolution you were sent last night. And but I then go on to include the various issues we've talked about over the last 3 days, you know, the open green space with recreational facilities, and so on and so forth.
So we're on paragraph 15 of your
Paragraph,
original resolution.
no, we're on paragraph 15 of the resolution as I rewrote it to among other things, capture our conversations of the last 3 days. So that in addition to accepting this part of Chair Gore's resolution, I have changed the language, but included the material that grew out of our conversations, our search for common ground.
So of the 4 resolutions that were on the agenda, the one that we are discussing right now is a combination of the ones with Chair Gore's edits and your original one?
It is a combination. It takes edits from Zeldin, Ferguson, Nash, reflects our conversations, and some of Commissioner Gore's things, but not Commissioner Gore's edits, but not all of them.
Okay, part of the reason just asking this is so that people online and watching know what they're looking at.
Okay.
So,
We're trying to get it pulled up now.
Yeah. Does that answer your question though?
well, this morning there were 4 resolutions on the agenda that Chair Gore sent out. Are we working with the same 4 resolutions, or are the original resolution that you had has now been edited
Modified.
with Chair Gore's edits?
And yours and Jim Nash's and Michael Zeldin's, but yes, and let me just say some of Chair Gore's edits.
Okay.
The chair has suggested cutting out much of the material at the bottom, and I'm arguing that we shouldn't cut it out. But does that Does that clarify it? I mean, well, let me just say, so it includes part of the Lisa's edits, but not all of them. The important elements, I think, are these, and Peter, you can add if you see other things here that you think are also important about the edits I've done to this resolution. This we basically say we reaffirm our position that some housing should be built at the community center library site in addition to the redevelopment of the community center and the library. The commission asks, this is paragraph 12, paragraph 13 is the commission asks that there be significantly more affordable housing than the 30% DemPed has said the district would require at the site, and believes that a majority of any housing at the site should be affordable. That's paragraph 13. Paragraph 14 is that the commission asks that there be a mix of affordable and workforce housing at a variety of affordability levels with a focus on families and on affordability for households making 50% or less of area median income. That to the extent that the units are rental, the city commits, the district commits that those units will be kept permanently affordable, and that the district explore the possibility of including affordable home ownership opportunities at the site. Paragraph 15 of you see this, right? You're working on that resolution?
I'm looking at the two resolutions that were sent on the agenda this morning, and the numbers are not adding up to what you currently have. So
It's
I'm
on
not
the
trying to.
screen. It's on the screen.
So was this the one that was on the agenda this morning?
So
Peter,
let me just answer that from a technical perspective. The resolution that Commissioner Gosselin submitted was on the original agenda. Yes, at the time that the agenda was set for this meeting. He does not need to put another resolution on the agenda to accept friendly amendments. So these are friendly amendments to that resolution, which was posted timely for this meeting. At any point in time, commissioners can submit additional friendly amendments, which is what happened. I posted 4 resolutions this morning on the commission website. So that's what we're working off now. So everything has been posted timely and properly, but even if it wasn't, we could still accept as a commission friendly amendments at any point in time.
and Peter, I sent to you at 10:15 last night a version of this. We had a conversation this morning, and I sent it again. I have tried to embody the conversations we had over the last 3 days, and I have tried to get you the resolution that embodies them. I acknowledge that it has not been available to the public, and that is bad. But I think it's better to search for common ground and to try to embody it in language versus, just sticking to the resolution as it exists. So can I go on? Is that reasonable as an approach? You have received this at least twice from me.
I'm not trying to challenge what we're going over. I'm only asking a clarifying question as to if we are dealing with the resolutions that were sent out this morning. And if so, is it the one with your edits, Chair Gore, or is it yours, Commissioner Gosselin?
What I tried
Or
to
is it
do,
neither? I don't know.
what I tried to do was accept as many of Lisa's edits as I could and include them in a resolution that seeks common ground with you, with Commissioners Nash, with Commissioner Ferguson, with Lisa Gore. I did not include Bruce because Bruce takes a very different approach to this. Okay. So could I go on? Have we clarified what we're dealing with?
Yes, that's fine. And again, thank you for reaching out and communicating with me over the past week.
Okay. I then have essentially the same provisions for open green space with recreational facilities, building height, and public land as in the resolution on the website. I then say, and this is paragraph 17, and somebody might just scroll up, 17, yeah, thanks. Given the community's strong desire for open green space with recreational facilities, the commission asked MPED to include in the RFP a preference for development proposals that include as much or more open space as the non-parking portions of the exterior space currently at the site and existing mature trees. Paragraph 18 is, given the concern about building height, the commission asked that DEMPED include in the RFP a preference for proposals that concentrate height increases along the Connecticut Avenue side of the site in order to respect the scale of adjacent single-family homes. Paragraph 19 addresses the issue about the confusion. Given the opposition and confusion about surplusing, the commission asked DEMPED to include a preference in the RFP to development proposals with a structure that allows the public to retain stewardship of the entire community center library site and to work with the ANC in exploring whether a community land trust could provide a vehicle for continued public stewardship. Paragraph 20 says, the commission hopes and expects that any commercial uses of space, such as a cafe, be modest and that non-profit operators, it says developers, should be operators be favored. And finally, paragraph 21 says the commission asked MPED to provide any potential bidder responding to the RFP with the results of the survey as well as the ANC's resolutions related to the results. It asked all bidders to present their proposals to the community with a full range of visual representations, including through the use of ArcGIS. So those are the changes at the bottom. With that, I'll proceed.
Commissioners, you have any questions? Well, first, let's go to community, if you don't mind. Community, any questions on this resolution? Come to the mic.
With the majority of the survey takers said they wanted to see. And I don't understand why you're writing resolutions that do not reflect the majority view on the survey and what the community wants to see on this site, which is a redeveloped library and community center with all of the current green space. Why are you just completely walking all over that and putting something else there? How does that represent at all?
That I brought up at the last meeting and didn't get an answer to? I have a question that I brought up at the last meeting, please. I didn't get an answer to from you, Mr. Gosling, from you, Mrs. Gore. What would it take? What would you have to hear? What evidence would we have to present for you to just say no to this project? In a sentence, please, Mr. Gosling.
I don't know how to answer the question.
You don't have an answer to what, so you are unpersuadable on the topic. So all of these meetings, all of these hours, hundreds of hours of my time just is forgot. Okay, Mrs. Gore, what's your answer, please?
So
We gave you the survey. You asked us what we said. Many support, most don't. What more do you need?
So my decision, as I previously said, is not just based on the survey. And I've said that to the community. I've said that to my single member district. I have always said that. I am not a person that believes my role as a commissioner is to listen to just one set of voices. I've talked to many people in this community over a multitude of years about this. I think I have a very good feel for what people in my single member district, including the ones that voted, including the ones that didn't vote it. And in addition to that, I have a very good understanding of the situation in terms of the District of Columbia and the need for affordable housing. I believe that this site can be an affordable housing site. I believe that we can redevelop it and make it into affordable housing and meet the concerns of the community. When I look at the survey, I do not see a community that's deeply divided. If you look at the survey, the majority of people support redevelopment. It's the type of redevelopment. Some don't want housing, and there's a reason behind why they don't want housing. I've looked at those comments, and I think that the majority of the issues that the community have are around height. They are around green space. They are around density. And I think that can be worked out in the RFP process.
But you didn't answer my question about what would it take to stop the project?
I don't
You're
have,
saying that
I
no
don't
matter
have.
what, you are ideologically
Yeah,
in
the only thing
support.
for me that would
and
stop
there's
the
nothing.
project is if the mayor stopped the project.
Oh, okay. So you're just here to side with the mayor.
No,
Okay.
you asked me, what would it take for me to stop the project?
Right.
It has no, it doesn't have
It
anything
doesn't
at
matter
this
what we all
point
say.
to do with people's opinion. The
Oh,
mayor
okay.
has committed money to the project. The project is going forward. So the only thing that I know that would stop the project is if we didn't have money and the
why
mayor
have we all
decided not
been
to do
here
it.
For like a dozen meetings. and
Because
why
we
have
are
been
trying to
asked
get
for-
input into the next phase of the project, which
I
is the
see. So-
RFP
So
process.
as I've said before, it's been a done deal from the get-go and you're trying to make
No,
little tweaks around the
That's,
edges.
that's your interpretation. I mean, if that's what you're interpreting, that's what you're interpreting. I can't help that. We are starting in our RFP process.
Mhm.
And what we tried to do was to get as much community input, which we did. We transmitted it just like you all wanted us to transmit it without sidebar conversation to it. We gave the city the results of this community. Now we're dealing with the next phase of the objective of the survey process, which is to convey the results to the city in terms of community process
Yeah,
and preferences.
I
And that's
hear
where we
you.
are.
I guess my concern is that I thought, and maybe I was confused, that you were asking us, do we want this project? If so, how should it be structured? But now I see that it's not, do you want this project? It's this project's happening, no matter what anyone says, and help us tweak it in ways that are acceptable.
Could I just ask, I mean, you've asked us the question, ma'am. I mean, do you believe in any kind of government that just is a pass through, is basically referendum government that is just a pass through? That's question one. The notion that we should, having been involved in this for a number of years, try to balance these issues, particularly on my side, this business of protecting the community from what could be a really messy reputation. And the other,
I'm sorry, I don't
the other
understand.
question,
What do you
could I
mean
just
by
say the other
messy
issue is this,
reputation?
ma'am, which is that, I mean, if we do believe, as we do, I think this whole commission believes, the city's going to move forward. That is, that is not a decision we made until.
The message should be like, we don't
Point of
want you-
order,
but I'll-
point of order.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't
Chair
have,
Cora, may I be recognized? Are we going to have time limits for community speakers, and are we going to have time limits for commissioners?
It's the same time limit, each meeting, 3 minutes.
Okay.
You want time? You want a time? Good. Great.
okay, sorry, I'm sorry, I just have a basic question. Do you ANC commissioners represent us or you don't represent us? Because I still don't understand that. I mean, that's actually a legitimate question. I'm not being sarcastic. I can be sarcastic later, but I actually don't understand.
What do you, when you say, let me ask you a question. When you say, do we represent you? What
Yeah.
exactly do you mean?
I mean, are you supposed to put forth the desires and the votes and the positions that have been given to you by your constituents?
We
Or-
are supposed to take that into consideration and to convey that to the city.
Right, but is
There's nothing that, and the director of OANC is right here. There's nothing in our charter or in legislation that says that we have to decide on what the community, and as you know, that's dangerous, right?
Well,
That can be
I see a
dangerous.
lot of
depending on-
danger
but
and
depending on the community you're
I'm
in,
looking at
that
danger.
might not go so well for certain people, but
Wow.
that is not in our legislative charter.
So you
or our
don't really
vote.
represent us. You represent whatever you want. And if we agree
No,
with
that's your
you.
interpretation
No,
because
I'm literally taking your words. You're
are-
Point of
saying
order.
you
we
make the
are
decision.
taking into consideration all opinions, and we're taking into consideration.
Yes, but in the
all
end, the opinion that
documents.
overrides them is your own, even if it is
Point of order.
direct contravention of what's represented in
Chair,
the
may I be
survey
recognized?
Yeah.
in
Okay.
very
well, I think I
unequivocal
answered your
numbers.
question. You can interpret it however,
No,
but
no,
I
I'm
think
not
I answered
interpreting
your
anything.
question.
I'm taking what you're saying. You're saying that you will listen or at least hear what people have to say, but you ultimately will make your own decisions, whether it's political aspirations, whether it's, particular moral views or being pontificated to about, I'm sorry, ANC Goslin, you were saying, oh, you're trying to make us seem as if we're terrible because we don't particularly want the type of affordable housing that you're saying we should have. And our response simply is, we don't have a problem with affordable, well, I should say myself, I can only talk for myself. We don't have a problem with affordable housing. However, we don't have any recreational space here. I mean, we have a thumb-sized little court out there that everybody uses and loves. So I just feel that you're trying to make us feel badly because of the fact that we're trying to hold on to the little recreational space, green space, library that we have. And I think it sounds like you have your own views and what should happen, and you really are marginally listening to what we're having to say, and rather you'd like to tell us what we should be thinking and how we should be feeling and what we should be doing. But I thought it was the other way around. I mean, that's all. I think that you're supposed to represent us, and I don't feel that you guys are, except with the exception of people I've mentioned before, who I do think take the views. And you're saying that you're going to disregard the views put forth or the resolution draft put forth by Bruce Sherman because it doesn't agree with what you say. Is my understanding correct on that score too?
We recognize.
I would. I think it's helpful to answer these questions, but the back and forth may not be helpful. So can we set a rule for commissioners in terms of maybe responding once?
I absolutely agree. And I asked the audience, I mean, if if you pose questions, it's very hard not to answer, but it does eat up time. So, I mean, I just think that we should try. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me go to online. First person I see, Kay Simmons, and then Susan P. Then we'll come back to the mic.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. My name is Corinthia. I live in Mr. Lynch's single member district. And I just want to remind the community that there are some of us in the community who support affordable housing. There are some of us who are renters, and our rent is constantly going up. And just like the basics within economics, the more supply you have, the more likely that the cost of housing will go down. So I would like for people in the community who are not renters, who have been living in their homes for a long time, who don't struggle with always trying to find housing or having to switch their budget around so that they can afford to pay rent and have a safe space for their family. I would like for everybody to think of that. I would like to also remind the ANC that you all need to do what's in the best interest of everyone in Washington, D.C. I don't think it's fair to continuously put affordable housing in Ward 7 and 8 when they can barely get grocery stores. And then the last thing I just want to ask Mr. Gosselin, in your testimony, you want developers that are not for profit. And I just want to know if you can speak a little bit to that, because just as we go to work every day for a paycheck, developers, that's their job, and you do that as a paycheck. So I don't know why it's this negative connotation about developers when that's their trade. That's what they do. That's what they do to earn income. And I don't feel that, we should kind of paint these developers in a bad light. So I just want to know why the for-profit, could that possibly have an issue with quality? I don't know a lot of nonprofit developers aside from Habitat for Humanity. So I guess I'm just interested in hearing more about that.
Okay. Thank you, Corinthia. Susan P.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Gore. My concern with this approach is that this is public land that's being given to a private developer. And I wanted to point out that in the letter, when you put it up on the screen, it says that we are expecting 30% of the site to be affordable housing. And yet Commissioner Gosselin said 40%. I mean, we might be giving away vastly valuable public land for 3, 4, or 5 apartments and losing so much. I think that's my concern. If this was being developed by the city for all affordable housing or for also city employees, like the police, teachers, others who can't afford market rates, then I think I'd be much more willing to support it. If the city decided to buy one of the apartment buildings in the neighborhood, Lincoln Arms, for instance, and put all affordable housing in there, I would support it. But you are asking the community to give away vastly valuable private or public land that we have had as a public good for more than 100 years in this neighborhood to a for-profit developer who might only give us a handful of apartments when all is said and done if we have height limits on it. And that is what I object to. And that's what I object to the commissioner starting from a position of defeat, that there is no way at all that we're going to be able to fight the city on affordable housing. I say if we want affordable housing, then we push for all affordable housing and the city pays for it. Not that we give away public land used by the community well for a long time for almost nothing, because 3 to 5 apartments is not worth the sacrifice that you're asking this community to give up. And none of the other communities, when their libraries were redeveloped, had to give up public land to a private developer. Not in Tenley, not in Cleveland Park, not in Ward 2, not in Ward 7. Why are we giving away very valuable land for almost nothing in return? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Brian Howman from Ward 4, Bruce Sherman's SMD. I want to first of all just thank the commissioners that are here tonight, and Peter Lynch specifically, for what I thought was a pretty balanced attempt at a draft, but also for the entire group for your process. I want to say that there's another option, and that option is to endorse Bruce Sherman's resolution and take a pause. There's no requirement from anyone that the ANC endorse what's likely to come out of the Office of Planning as an RFP anyway before the end of the year. And the only reason that you're succumbing to the pressure is because of the intense pressure that the developer community is putting on you, along with the Wynn Ward 3 folks. What I would respectfully say that none of us wants to see this process hung up in litigation over the next 7 years, like McMillan Reservoir or like other areas. And I think some of the things that have been put forward by Matt Fruman, specifically at the city council level, are likely to end up before a judge and likely to take years and years to resolve, unless we find a way to come together on better issues. And I think a pause would allow the development community and this group to better look at how to do that, because I think there is a way to avoid a McMillan result, and the mayor might appreciate that. Actually, I think being in front of a judge for the next, or in front of Congress over the next 2 years in 2024 is unwise, and Bruce Sherman at least allows for a pause, and this group could endorse that.
I'll make it fast since I already said something quick. Everybody's bandying about 20%, 30%, 40% affordable housing required. But in fact, it's the max is 20% because it's not a metro hub. You're too far away from the metro to require more than 20%. So that you can just stop that anyways. The ANC has disregarded the expressed will of the respondents to the ANC's own survey and advanced Peter Goslin's personal preferred recommendation to the city. The ANC's principal excuse for this action is the claim that the survey overrepresents older homeowners and underrepresents younger renters. This survey was prepared in consultation with local experts and vetted by ANC members. And as Commissioner Sherman pointed out in the last meeting, the ANC made efforts to publicize the survey and distribute it widely, including to apartment buildings. And this survey received a far greater number of responses than any previous instrument. Some people just didn't really care about this. They didn't take it, okay? While the ANC may profess concern for the unknown desires of people who did not take the survey, it has no way to validly determine what those unexpressed desires may be. Clairvoyance, perhaps? Thus, the ANC's action is simply an autocratic slap in the face to the citizens of Chevy Chase who care deeply about the fate of the commons and who took the trouble to respond to the ANC's request that they make their opinions known. This is anti-democracy at the hyper-local level. Your constituents will not forget it.
So I'd like to take us down to the narrow and ask Peter Goslin questions about the text. So in the text that I have for paragraph 10 on reaffirming a position, some housing should be, some affordable housing should be built in the community center.
What
There-
paragraph are you on?
Paragraph 10 of
Okay.
God knows which draft.
I think you have, did you pull this off the website?
I got it from the Chevy Chase Voice site. I can show you what I've got.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I just think it's the yeah, this is the previous.
That's the old version.
This is
It's
the
this one up
previous
here.
There was a paragraph that began, therefore, Commission reaffirms its position, some housing should be built at the community site. I don't know where it is up there. 12 has the language that was in that original draft of that at least the housing be built should be affordable below 50% been deleted from the draft.
As a result of the conversations over the last weekend, that issue is now addressed in paragraph 13 on the screen. The commission asked that there be significantly more affordable housing than the 30% DEMPED has said the district would require at the site, and believes that a majority of any housing at the site should be affordable. And then in paragraph 14, there, it talks about a variety of levels of affordability and so forth. Does that help?
It helps because you had put in an edict in there about 50% had to be half, which bothered me.
Yeah.
Second, you have in the original draft on building height that I had, there was language, the reduction is an adjustment in the right direction, but the survey results suggest further reduction is needed. And then you had a paragraph which urged something below 80 feet.
And that has been removed. I can't find a majority for it.
So what?
So what that has been, what it now says, and if you look at paragraph 16 on building heights, at the bottom of that, it says,
You kept
well,
your
in
fact
fact,
point.
in fact, I have a typo there. It just says in the right direct, again, the reduction is an adjustment in the right direction. It doesn't say right direction is needed. It's a typo, but, and then on paragraph 18, if you scroll.
30 seconds.
Okay, let me.
If you
finish real quick.
scroll down, it says that we look for a preference, we have in the RFP for that tries to cope with the problem.
What I was getting at was the survey, the original draft said the survey results suggest a further reduction is needed. I took issue with the word suggest. It's much stronger than that in the survey that the height should be lower than 80. Let me get my third point in before my mic's cut off.
Yeah.
You have a point now in the new language about underground parking should be considered. I have no idea what that means.
Well, the only mention of underground parking is, I believe, in paragraph 15 in the final bullet. It just says underground parking considerations.
And that's way too vague for me personally. This is the biggest issue we have.
It
Where are
it
these
is a
people
huge,
gonna park?
I absolutely agree. It's a huge issue. Who the hell knows who's going to pay for it? So, but I mean, yeah. Thank you.
Let me go to online, Libby, then we'll come back to the mic.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, I think there's a,
Yes.
hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can hear you, Libby. You might have to unmute yourself. You're muted, Libby. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Still can't. Okay.
Libby, we can hear you. Go on and talk. You're unmuted.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear. I'm so sorry. Yes, I had two devices on at one time. Okay, my name is Libby Martin. I live in Bruce Sherman, single member district. I think it's important to point out that this public land is not being given away when we are going to be receiving a public library and community center that will also be state of the art and something that we will all be able to use fully, publicly. So I think that's very important to know, to remember. Second of all, in terms of the representation by the ANC commissioners of this neighborhood and the lack of democracy, I think it's important to notice that we are actually, they are elected ANC commissioners, and that they have an oath which is actually stated as they've been elected as advisory neighborhood commissioners of the District of Columbia and do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, that I will perform such duties as may be assigned to me as member of said commissions to the best of my ability without fear or favor, that I will exercise my best judgment and will consider each matter before me from the viewpoint of the best interest of the District of Columbia as a whole, and that I will faithfully discharge said duties. This was directly from the office, DC government of the ANC. So that's the oath. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Michelle Wolin. I'm not going to get into all the arguments, all the language about an ANC that is actually supposed to be representing the views of its constituents. The oath is ceremonial, but I'm not going to rehash all those arguments. I can't believe we actually have to even have an argument about this, what an ANC's role actually is, but we do. But I won't get into it here. Lisa, I would just like a point of clarification when you were talking, and then I want to make some comments. When you were talking about, like, I don't have the survey in front of me, I don't know the exact numbers. 40% said they did want redevelopment, but not housing. What was your?
I didn't mention a percentage. I said the majority. And what I was referencing was question 9. And question 9, the choices are, I support the proposed redevelopment of the community center and library site to construct facilities, including housing, including affordable housing, 37%. I support only redevelopment of the community center and library, including a portion of renovating the existing facilities. That was 49%. So that's what I was talking about. Those two categories both support redevelopment to an extent.
Okay, and then there is a category, I do not support any redevelopment.
And that percentage was, and you are correct, that I do not support any redevelopment of the site was 9%.
Right.
9.7.
So,
and I don't feel sufficiently informed was 3%, and I have no preference was 0.3%.
okay. So both categories, I support no redevelopment, and I support redevelopment of only the library and community center. Both mean that those respondents did not want housing on the site. That's what that means. And I understand Ward 3 Vision is trying to parse through these results, make sound that isn't true. If you wanted housing and redevelopment, that was your option. Okay, and that was only 37%. So the other thing that I want to talk about is, as I've said before, I've been following this for 3 years. I attended all your meetings. You know that I consistently raise the issue of you need to have community input because you haven't had it. From the get-go, this ANC, most of this ANC, between Randy Speck, Connie Chang, and you, Lisa, were gung-ho on we're going to have housing here. Throughout the housing working group that was part of the task force on racism, the community is referred to as opposition repeatedly. How are we going to handle the opposition? It matters what language we use. You know, we have to be prepared for the opposition. This was pushed by Randy Speck and also Ward 3 Vision was on that committee and has been on every committee pushing their views, and Randy Speck was all on board. And I listened to you all from the get-go. Some of you just wanted housing. At the November 20th meeting, when you first presented the results of that housing working group, there was incredible pushback. And all the, Chandra, was that her name? What's her name? The woman that used to be on the ANC, give me the name. She was falling over herself saying, this is just the first engagement with you. We are going to talk to you all so many times. And she even said, we might do a survey. And even Randy Speck repeated, oh, this is just the first. Okay. Lisa said, we're going to bring the community along with us, but I'll let that go. That's okay. But the idea was we're going to have more community engagement. This survey should have been done 3 years ago before the SAP was approved. But you treated the view of not having housing, that view was considered illegitimate almost. You weren't even going to entertain that. That was not a legitimate position to have, but it is a very legitimate position to have. 60% of your constituents have that position. And this is what I've heard through many years here, but it was consistently ignored. You didn't really consider it. And you can't just keep saying, well, look at all we did in the past, because all those things we're just ignoring this viewpoint. We're going to have housing. It's the right thing to do. The rest of you, we're just giving you the back of the hand, not an acceptable position. That's wrong.
Is it up to me? Are we? Okay, great. Point of order. I think Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. A friendly amendment should not be handled any differently from any other amendment. The entire commission must consent to the amendment either by majority vote or through unanimous consent. I would raise again that the way that business is conducted at this ANC is something short of open and transparent. And again, we're now looking at yet another resolution with amendments that we have not had an opportunity to look at before the meeting. And you can dress this up, but it's still dress up. It's still not representation. I would also say that you mentioned that you are elected, and that's true. And that can be undone. And you are looking for higher office. You particularly, Chairperson Gore, are seeking higher office. So you know, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this shakes out, because people are not, to your point, Commissioner Goslin, people are unhappy with how we've been treated by the city, but I think we are super unhappy about how we've been treated by this ANC. And I really, excuse me, okay. I really think that our unhappiness with the city pales by comparison to our unhappiness with this ANC and the way it's run and the way it's managed. And I sincerely hope that it changes soon. The other thing is, the worst thing that I've heard tonight, by far the worst thing I've heard, and I've heard a lot of bad stuff over the various meetings that I've attended, is that the mayor wants it and therefore we have to do it. You're not here to do what the mayor wants. You're here to do
That's not what I
want.
said. What I said was that,
Say that.
what I said was that
back
the
the
only
recording.
thing, when she asked me the question about my opinion, what would stop the project, what would make me say stop the project, I said, if there is, from my understanding, the project is going forward, the mayor has allocated money. The only thing that I would see would stop the project was if the mayor decided to stop the project. That's
Well,
what I said.
One way to make the mayor stop the project is to provide her with feedback from the community that they
And we
want the
have.
project stopped. I disagree with even that, because the numbers that you set forth, the survey results that you sent at the last ridiculous meeting are also not what we asked you to send. We asked you to just send the raw data, and
That's
you
what we
parsed it.
did.
No, you parsed it down into little segments to bolster your opinion.
Okay.
I just hope that you can change the way you do business, because this is completely and totally unacceptable.
You could,
Okay, next.
Thank you, commissioners, for letting me speak and address you. My name is Jerry Rosenheck. I grew up in DC since the 60s and moved to Chevy Chase about 33 years ago. Where I live is going to matter in the years in front of me. I like Washington. I like my neighborhood. I like looking forward to making my home meet my needs in the future. What I see along Connecticut Avenue, where the library and community center is a neighborhood.
The number one part of
center
our
that has
mission is to make the best quality product. At the very best.
Please mute your microphones online. Someone's coming through.
So what I see along Connecticut Avenue, where the library and community center is a neighborhood center that has been accessible and friendly to me and to passersby. Now changes are being discussed for a new library, a community center, plus housing with some affordable units. I would like to see a new library, a new community center, and I would like to see new affordable housing in Chevy Chase. What concerns me is how it will be designed and executed. Will the library fit our residents' needs? Will the community center fit the needs of a diverse community here? Will the affordable housing be affordable to occupants in need? Will we still have a friendly and accessible neighborhood center? We are entrusting you, ANC commissioners, to hear our voices and convey our concerns and interests to the city. I have made my views known to you through by responding to the survey. Now, the question is whether I can trust the ANC to support what the survey is telling. My trust, and I believe that of the community, will depend on how you are treating the results of the survey. Thank you again.
Can I move this? Hi, Jorge Highland, SMD 6. Thank you, first of all. What you do is hard. So thank you. Look, I understand that your responsibility is to take many different perspectives into your decisions beyond one survey. The reality is that there is a material segment of the community that is not in favor of developing this site beyond the purposes that it serves today. What I want is anything that's developed on this site, I want it to be successful. There's a real trust deficit right now because people see the survey results, look around who's showing up at the meetings, and consequently feel that you are not representing the community. Now, we elect you to represent us. But that also includes electing you for your perspectives. It's not just, we're electing you because of who you are and your backgrounds and what you bring to the table, who you talk to, and your networks. But also part of your responsibility is to make sure that we understand why you're making decisions. Not everyone needs to agree with you, but we need to understand why you're landing where you are. And that's not where we are today. So my concern is that if you don't find a way to help the community understand how all of the other inputs that are not as easy to see, like the survey, for example, are shaping your perspective, this trust deficit is only going to grow, and whatever is built here is not going to be successful. So I ask you, wherever you land, to really take on the responsibility of helping us understand why you landed where you are, even if we don't agree with you, because otherwise the whole community will suffer no matter what ends up being built here.
So let me just address that. I think a lot of the commissioners have. I think they have. I'm going to say that. A lot of people know why I support affordable housing. But I think what is not being said is that we also have to understand how commissioners are treated once that occurs. And I can tell you, past and present commissioners have caught a lot of grief from the community, and I don't want to go, and I'm not just talking about, I disagree with what you said. I'm talking about horrible emails, horrible posts on a listserv, racist emails, all kinds of stuff. So we also have to acknowledge that and understand what that does to people that are trying to be public servants at no cost to them, but at a lot of adversity. So it is a two-way street. And that's why I begin every meeting with imploring this community to be a community and to respect everybody's opinion. We don't always get that. Every meeting I have to say, please stop overshouting, folks. So we are desperately trying to do that, but I just want to convey, and I'm glad you brought that up because your comment is spot on. That is the only way we're going to be a community. And we have delved into a side of us that I have never seen. My family has been here since the 70s, early 70s. I've never seen this. And I hope that we at some point come back to center and to respect and to honor that we all are diverse people. And you're right, we are elected. We are elected because of who we are, what we bring to the table. We're not droids. We bring a lot of experience and credibility. This is one of the best, and I was talking to Kent, but this is one of the best commissions in this city. And I've always said that, and that is the truth. And I would implore you, you can laugh, I would implore you to go to other commissions and see how they work. See what the community gets from some of those other commissions. This commission is top notch. And whether I'm on it or off of it, I will always say that because I have gone to every ward in this city. I have met with just about every leader in this city. I know just about every commissioner in this city. So I know how it works. And this is an outstanding commission. We don't always get it right, but we certainly try. We try hard. We really try hard. And if I can't convey anything else tonight, I'll convey that. I am more than happy to talk to you about my position. I've spoke to it, and what influences me a lot about this position is the ability to get affordable housing on this site on a public land where we don't have to pay housing costs and to contribute to the housing shortage in DC. We have a lot of people that are still homeless. We have kids that are homeless. We have a lot of issues that are going on with housing shortage in DC. And I feel like this is a way to contribute to it. And if you know my original position, you know I've come down a lot. I've come down a lot, and I think other commissioners have too.
I appreciate your comments, and that's why I started with a thank you. I know what you're doing is hard. There's no room for disrespect from the community towards you, and vice versa. Respectfully, I'll also say though that your job is not done until you continue to make people understand, right? Because the trust deficit, it's really concerning because it's only growing. Right. And I'm not saying it's just on you. It's a community, something we have to tackle as a community, but you need to help us lead the community to close that deficit. Otherwise, we're looking at a lot of friction and a lot of, fights going forward to make this successful. So thank you.
Could I just cut in here? This is not addressed to you. It's to address to my fellow commissioners. We need to fully vet this, including, I think Commissioner Lynch may want to add to this or this resolution, and we need to leave time to debate Commissioner Sherman's. And so I just want to be sure that you understand if we keep getting, if there's a long list of people speaking, we can't go beyond 8:30. So there you have it.
My name is Matt Osolinsky. I'd like to read a statement, if I may, from my wife, Rita Solera Osolinsky, who asked me to share this tonight. She has a work commitment. Together, we have been residents and homeowners in ANC 34G since early 1992, nearly 32 years. We feel privileged to have enjoyed this neighborhood and to have raised our now adult children here. Rita's question is this: what are we afraid of? The 2020 census puts the population of this ANC at 14,563. If housing is included in the much-needed redevelopment of our sorely outdated library and dungeon of a community center, the maximum number of units would be approximately 100. If 50% of those were designated as affordable, that would mean 50 units. That means 50 individuals and/or families would be given the opportunity to be part of our neighborhood of 14,563. That's 0.003%. I think it's 0.03%. What are we afraid of? Will welcoming 50 individuals or families to have a chance to live here somehow diminish the quality of our lives we have all enjoyed for decades? Would it change my experience at Safeway, at Bread and Chocolate, at the bank, at Child's Play? I sincerely don't think so. I would be ashamed to align with that thinking. I'm embarrassed and heartbroken when I hear my peers and neighbors say they support affordable housing, not here on this site, and do not offer specifics on where and when. We need affordable housing in every neighborhood, in every ward, in every city across the country. If not us, the most privileged, then who? If not now, when the opportunity is right in front of us, then when? Thank you. And I will add that it strikes me that not 3 blocks from here, this community removed private land and made it public to make this community in those days to protect property values. We've heard a lot about that. To remove strife, any number of reasons. And we bear that today, and we're so proud of the signs that we put up there. We're so proud to suggest signs to put in the new community center. But we're not proud to do something that would just a little bit, it's never going to be rectified, but just a little bit make that action in those years better, much more than signs. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Finizzi. I think it was a good question. What are we afraid of? And I don't think it's the people. I think it's the changes that and the precedent of surplusing the private property, the changes that would come with the height, and the changes that would be all along Connecticut Avenue, and the fact that the will of the residents is not being respected and hasn't been respected all through the process. I don't think there's adequate precedent in this whole process for thinking that the city is going to negotiate any part of the RFP in good faith. They didn't do any analysis of traffic, of parking, of impact on green spaces, of impact on schools when they proposed this and density at all. I asked them point blank, question after question with Erkin and Heba, and they said, no, no, no. I said, why are you the Office of Planning? Not their job. I think when we talk about the oath and the oath to the city, if you look at the city's organizational chart, the agencies are under the mayor, but the mayor is under the people, and respecting and listening to the people is the mayor's job. And if we send this along, it's saying you don't have to listen to our people. And I don't mean that we don't need affordable housing, but she didn't, and DEMPED and OP did not give us a chance to work it out ourselves, to figure it out. They said, this is the only solution, the only place. We said, what about if you build Magruders? What if you put apartments of it? Nope, can't work, can't work, can't work. And we said, what about a nonprofit developer? Can't work, can't work. The only solution that they let us entertain was a very tall structure with a 70% or more perhaps of luxury housing. And I think that's what I'm afraid of, is the lack of respect for the people and the constituents. And if we have time tonight to hear what's going on with the lighting survey, you'll see that lack of constituent service and disregard for the people extends into other agencies as well. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Let me go online. Let me take the one comment online, then we'll come back to the mic, Crusoe. And there's a chair up here, 2 chairs right at the front, if someone wants to come sit up here. Chris?
Hi, commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so I just want to put this comment on the record because it seems to me, as a former ANC commissioner myself, I mean, you're advising, you're encouraging the executive to do better. What we haven't seen so far, as the prior participant just suggested, no planning for any of the density or upzoning at all, which should be a shock. But maybe you can advise the executive to actually do some planning. What I'm perturbed to see, though, is advice to the executive to suggest in some of the resolutions that half the units be affordable, which means the other half, minimally half of them are affordable, which likely means the other half are unaffordable. So I'm just wondering, why is it okay to consider putting probably some of the most expensive housing in the city on what would be formerly public land, because they'll privatize the air rights to build luxury housing on public land? Why are we advising that at all to the executive? And wouldn't a better route be to advise the parameters of, for say, the Green New Deal for housing at this site, which would at least get you 70% affordable units, but to consider 50% or even less affordability on this site for housing, any housing, which would mean luxury housing, I just so far afield from what you can advise and encourage. They don't have to listen to you, obviously, but don't you want to advise for more? I'm really confused about that.
Just, I understand that concern. Just to be clear, the resolution that we're now talking about does say that a majority of the housing needs to be affordable. Whether they listen to us or not is another whole thing.
That means the other majority or the other half is unaffordable. So why advise that? I don't understand that. Why advise half of the units to be luxury housing? Can somebody explain that to me?
Next.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Vaden. I'm an ANC 34G resident and a member of Win Ward 3. Thanks to all of you for the intensive work I know you've done leading up to tonight. Win Ward 3 appreciates the focus on affordability in the drafts prepared by Commissioners Gosselin, Lynch, and Gore, and believes that these resolutions, proposed resolutions, are indeed very supportive of, believes these resolutions indeed reflect significant community support. As a speaker said earlier, we don't just want a handful of affordable housing. Win Ward 3 would like to keep the focus squarely on affordability, and to that end, we recommend strengthening the language on how much of what is built should be affordable. Win Ward 3 continues to believe that the site could accommodate all affordable units rather than a mix of affordable and market rate. In any event, we certainly can do better than half affordable, half market rate. We recommend that the resolution call for all, or at least a substantial majority of the housing to be affordable in perpetuity. We've also proposed targeting residents making 30 to 80% median family income, an income range that could enable members of the workforce in our area, like childcare providers, police, and firefighters, to actually live here. In sum, Win Ward 3 urges commissioners to reject Commissioner Sherman's proposed resolution and to adopt an amended resolution that prioritizes building all affordable housing at the site.
That is the community of people who use Chevy Chase Library every day. And it is a sanctuary for some people. For other people, it's a meeting place. It's an information center. And we're really a very affluent city that we can talk about tearing down two enormous buildings just because, you know, we can do it. What about the environmental impact? Where is all this stuff going? Where are we throwing these two modernist examples of architecture that the Office of Planning has indicated that they want to preserve? This is the last modernist building, library building in the city. And we're going to just rip it down and, you know, whatever the cost. I think we should be considering not only the environmental impact, but also the impact on the users who rely on the library and perhaps the center as well. And I hope you will consider those people when you're making your decision. Thanks.
You can go on. We're probably going to have to call it at Jamie Butler just so we have enough time to discuss and vote on the resolution, just to let people know that, but go on.
Hi, I'm Mark Wolf. I live in the neighborhood and I work on affordable housing at sort of the national and state level. I've looked at this a lot and I think there's a certain amount of magical thinking going on. This is really our only public space and it's valuable. And even if we can surplus it, it's still expensive land that's being surplused. I'd like to suggest that the ANC seriously consider some alternatives. This is, as the last speaker said, an incredibly wealthy city. We have a city housing trust fund that's well funded. I think we've got several big lots right around here that aren't really being used well. There's a bank that's sitting on this enormous lot, and the bank has community investment responsibilities. It's a national bank, and I think we can talk to them about donating the land. I think we should also look at Magruder's. If not donating it, the city can just buy it. You know, this is land, our only community land, and basically we're taking it and saying, let's use it to subsidize affordable housing. That's fine, but it's still land that's valuable. So I'd like to suggest we could not go forward this and say, let's take a hard look at the land we have available that's not being used and see if it can just be purchased. I mean, what is wrong with that? Why do we have to donate our public land? The other thing is, the last thing to mention, once this land is gone, the open space, we're not getting it back. You know, the land behind Magruder's, behind the bank, is not going to become a park. And so before we do this, consider, do we really want to use this limited public land to build, as someone was saying, non-affordable housing? I mean, who cares? We got plenty of that around here. All those buildings have signs saying for rent. Why couldn't the city just use some of their housing vouchers? The other part is I have no confidence the city can manage this. I've read articles in the Washington Post about several thousand housing vouchers that are not being used that can support affordable housing. We have a city that has a housing agency that is mired in scandal. So yes, I support affordable housing. I think it's incredibly important, but I worry that it's not a big piece of land we're on. To give up this limited public space for the possibility of building a very limited amount of affordable housing doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, that's really my point. Why can't we look at the bank space next door? I mean, are they going to say no? I don't think so. Why can't we look at the Magruder space? And if Fruman's that interested, why can't we talk to AU? They sit on a lot of tax exempt land. So that's really my concern. And the last thing I'd like to mention, I don't think this should become an issue of Ward well, I live in the part of this ANC that's Ward 4. But okay, I'll say one last thing is that I think there's a sense that we're not being generous. We're an ungenerous neighborhood. That's not correct at all. There are lots of people in this neighborhood who strongly support affordable housing. So I'd recommend we write a letter and just let's use some of the City Housing Trust Fund to make a bid on the Magruder's land or make a bid on the bank land. I think that makes perfect sense. That would protect this last piece of open public space. Thank you.
My name is Teresa Grana. I've lived here over 50 years. I've been involved with the community center in a variety of programs. And I think one of our concerns should be improving the current programs that we have. We have no tutoring programs. We have the senior programs seem to have disappeared, and I would ask the ANC to put that on their agenda and true with the library. You get the news from the library and they're doing all these programs. They're not doing it here. And I think it's a form of neglect by the agencies so that they can say this property isn't being used. And that's not true. It would be used if they had creative programming. And some social services that are needed by many of our new voucher residents. But I'm really here to say that as a member of Chevy Chase Voice, and there are many of us here, we support Bruce Sherman's very fair, very well-written resolution. And we would like a proposal, and we would like for you to consider that, give it some weight, and be able to be flexible. I do not support my Commissioner, Ms. Gosselin's proposal or yours. I think it's unrealistic. I think to talk about parking on this as underground is totally unrealistic. And I agree with what the gentleman just said, that there are other places in this ward and this city that we could put affordable housing. And as someone who has worked with the poor in this city most of my life, I wholeheartedly support it, as does everybody in Chevy Chase Voice. So we hope that you will give Mr. Sherman's proposal some support and interest. Thank you.
I am Jamie Butler. I've been a resident here for 39 years and I am with Wynn Ward 3. I want to thank all of you. I don't always agree with each of you, but I do really respect the work and the time that you're putting into this and what you have had to put up with in terms of community response to you. I want to say that the mayor did not buy the Wardman. The mayor is not supporting buying the Intelsat building. And why would we think that she's going to come up here when there is public land and decide to not build here and to try to acquire property? To me, that is totally unrealistic. I also want to say that the loudest voices at community meetings do not necessarily translate to a majority of the Chevy Chase residents and their opinions. We know through our walking through the neighborhood over the summer and knocking on more than 650 doors that there are a lot of people who still know nothing about what's going on up here, that people want more information, and that people actually support affordable housing when they get the correct information. And they're not told that we're going to build like we're in Bethesda, or we're going to get rid of our green space, or that it's going to be sold off to a private developer and we'll have no control over it. There's a lot of information that's still out there that isn't accurate. And when we get accurate information out there and we actually have conversations, people have different attitudes. The 60-40 split about who supports and who doesn't support, as Commissioner Gore noted, and the other commissioners here know that too, when they've gone into the survey results and they've looked more finely at the results, the 60-40 analysis is oversimplified. It's a more complicated survey. And number two, as other commissioners have said, it's not the only data point. This has been going on for a long time, and they're using other information besides the survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to commissioner discussion. Commissioners, you have any discussion on Commissioner Gosselin's draft?
Yeah, I would like to speak in support of Commissioner Gosselin's draft. And I do not have time to get into explaining my decision. I thought it was ironic that that gentleman said, you know, he'd like to know why, but I don't have any time to do it here because we spend so much time listening to you all, which is, you know, fine. I will write more in depth on listserv. I'm a writer, but just a couple of points. I do not agree that the survey was only about affordable housing, number one. And so you can go be for affordable housing, but I read every single essay answer in my single member district. And what I heard was people for affordable housing and people against it had similar concerns. The people who were for it say, well, you know, I'm for it, but I don't want to lose any green space. And the people who are against affordable housing are afraid they will lose it. That is a legitimate fear on both sides. Therefore, I support Commissioner Gosselin's resolution because he does take the survey seriously. There was near, you know, close to unanimity. And that's important also because 5 out of 6 people in this community chose not to take this widely publicized survey. Okay, 5 out of 6 didn't take it. Therefore, when I see rough unanimity, that means something to me. When I do not see that, then I want to be very conservative in how I use that survey. Okay, so Commissioner, a second reason I'm going to support, and Commissioner Gosselin highlights that as an issue. If that's not on there, I can't support it. I can't support affordable housing unless the preservation of green space is made a top priority, because that's what I got out of the survey and from talking to people. And it's my own take too. The second reason I'm supporting it is Commissioner Gosselin has worked tirelessly over the past week or two and has gotten a lot of flack for doing so and changing it around a lot, but he's really tried hard to build a coalition. To me, it is a middle ground between the resolution of Commissioner Sherman, which is goes one way, and then to me, Chair Gore's resolution is weakened because it doesn't set some clear priorities of this is what we do not want or this is what we want. It simply says this is the survey, and I want to really focus on 2 or 3 things. We have a weak hand here, and so if you overplay a weak hand by saying no housing, that doesn't get you anywhere. But we have a strong enough hand that if we focus on a couple of things that are really important, and what I saw in the survey is the green space at least is really important. That's the only thing I really want to see in here. Then I think we have a real shot of getting that, and that matters to people. And my hope after enduring these meetings is that we may have a chance of coming together as a community if we do that. Nobody here is going to be happy if we do housing or don't do housing. A huge group of people are going to be unhappy. So that you can't cut the baby. But at least my takeaway is to focus on the preservation of green space, no matter what they do. Okay, and so that is why I am supporting Commissioner Gosselin's resolution.
Commissioner Lynch.
Well, thank you, Chair Gore. And I concur with Commissioner Nash's assessment of Commissioner Gosselin's efforts to bring us all together over the past week. It has been a very quick week since Wednesday, and before that, I spent 2 hours at Mr. Gosselin's home over some good coffee and quite a pleasant home. So thank you, Mr. Gosselin, for that. And I thought it was very productive. I think the resolution that you've drafted and worked with all of us on has some fine points, The resolution that I wrote, as this is a site that is in my SMD, there are 7 points which I would like to add or strengthen to your resolution. And I don't know how you would like to move through those 7 points, but if you're interested, I certainly would like to address those here today.
So you're asking for a friendly amendment?
Well, not necessarily, because there's 7 items which I'm not sure that everyone would agree on. So do we want to take them as a whole, or do we want to take them one by one?
You can take them however you want, but Commissioner Gosselin, since it's his resolution, is the one that has to accept the friendly amendment. So it's up to Commissioner Gosselin.
There are 2 ways to, there seem to me to be 2 ways to do this, and I suggest we walk through them. And I'm the decider in the sense that it's easier if I make it, if you make it as a friendly amendment, I accept it as a friendly amendment. But if you're not satisfied with that at the end, I guess we can vote alternatively on your whole package. Right. I think that we would be most well served if you just walked through the 7 and we saw where we were, okay?
Okay, I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Commissioner Goslin. My first point on the resolution that's shared with the committee and is before me and is with the crowd right now is number 1 says, we urge any potential developer to maintain or improve the current square footage of public space and usage of both the library and community center. Would you accept that?
Commissioner, what's the difference between that and my paragraph 17? Given the community's strong desire for open green space with recreational facilities, the commission asked DEMPED to include in the RFP a preference for development proposals that include as much or more open space as the non-parking portions of the exterior space currently at the site and existing mature trees. And let me just say, this is not because I'm clairvoyant that this is so similar to your ask. It's because we've been talking for the last 3 days and I've been trying to find language that embodies many of the issues you raised. Is there anything that says that this improves upon?
Yes. So specifically, this gets to the library and the community center. And I have a point later on, which I think you have come to in your resolution that speaks to green space. But as you remember from—
Oh, I see. Oh, this is the square footage of the internal space. Sure.
That's right.
Well, that's fine. I want an excellent library, but the price we're paying for this, we better have a good library and community center. Fine. We can add that. Yeah.
Should we vote on that now?
No, I accept
he's
it.
accepted as a
In other words,
friendly
if I accept it as a friendly amendment, it's
incorporated.
incorporated, and then we'll vote on the whole thing. So what's 2?
Thank you. Okay. In my resolution, I hew more to the Ward 3 side of things. And I come from the position that this is public space. And I personally reject the notion that we should have market rate housing at this site. Now, we have had long ZDD meetings where our co-chair and other professionals in the community have said this is likely impossible to have full affordable units at this site. So what I have proposed in my language is housing on the civic core site ought to be affordable by virtue of being on a public land and keeping with the purpose and intent of housing at the site. That speaks to the idea too, that when we—
Peter, where is it? Where
this is my resolution in resolved paragraph 5.
You
okay.
skip 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah, he's trying to get.
Those are included already in some fashion in Goslin's.
Housing ought to be affordable by virtue.
So, yep. So one of the reasons that I make this point is because in the early stages of the small area plan, of which I was a part, in which many community members were a part here, when people advocated for affordable housing, they did not envision market rate housing. So to continue the point on the resolution, understanding the financial constraints, if there must be a portion of market rate housing, we urge OP, DIMPED, and the mayor to work with the developer to ensure that the majority of units are affordable. the ANC would strongly prefer minimal market rate housing on the site.
I'm happy to accept that, and I'm happy to accept it as a replacement for what we discussed over the last 3 days is my paragraph 13. The commission asked that there be significantly more affordable housing than the 30% Democrat is. That, I mean, we can simply lift 13 and replace it with your 5. Is that reasonable?
That would be great. Thank you, Mr. Goslin.
We're adding, yeah.
My next point, point 6, speaks to this as well, if you'd like me to continue.
Yeah. My 14 doesn't satisfy. I mean, what in 6? What in 6 do I not get at in 14?
Well, yeah, I think you're basically there, but I would really emphasize, if we don't currently have it in your version, that affordable units remain affordable in perpetuity.
Okay, just to try to keep this.
I'm sorry, and then also the point there is that units should prioritize families.
Okay, so let me just see if this works for you. This is my current 14, okay? The commission asks that there be a mix of affordable and workforce housing at a variety of affordability levels with a focus on families and on affordability for households making 50% or less of area median income. That to the extent that the units are rental, the district commit that those units will be kept permanently affordable, and that the district explore the possibility of including affordable home ownership opportunities at the site.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, I believe that's the same. So I think we're basically there, and maybe add the emphasis on families if it's not in yours.
It's in
Okay.
with a focus on families, right?
Can I ask you?
Great.
For the amendment, would you do the household making the wins 30 to their recommendation 30 to 80%?
Sure, I mean, that's fine, yeah. So Peter, we're just talking about modifying the 50% to 30 to 80%.
Could you say that one more time? So the way it stands now, we would be advocating for a minimum of affordable units, if not no affordable units.
No. It's the commission asks that there be a mix of affordable and workforce housing at a variety of affordability levels. And then my current language says, with a focus on families and on affordability for households making 50% or less of area median income. And Chair Gore is saying that we change 50% to 30 to 80%. So we both go lower and we higher.
It's middle.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're good on 6.
Okay, and I just have 1, 2, 3, 4 more.
Okay.
Number 7 speaks to the issue that we know of student enrollment in our area public schools. With the expectation that families may move in, we urge DC Public Schools, and I suppose OSSI should be included in this, that the city agencies coordinate and plan for potential new school enrollments that may arise due to new housing here and housing that is also taking place across Ward 3, for instance, at Friendship Heights.
Okay, fine. We'll add it.
Thank you. Number 10, we urge, and I believe this is something we've been hearing consistently tonight, and was my sort of offering to Bruce Sherman's resolution, is we urge OP, DIMPED, and the future developer to continue to work with and receive input from the ANC community. I think you already have that. We reserve the right to request new site options or reject proposals if potential project does not align with these priorities, the ones that are here before us. And to add to that, we know that Councilmember Fruman has also said that if there's in his words, a Frankenstein project here, he too would fight it. So it's in that spirit that we maintain participation through this process. And if something comes along that does not align with our priorities, we have the right to say this is not what we need.
Let me just, on that. I mean, Peter, it's your resolution. I don't necessarily object. If we want to emphasize that, but that is the process. So that is the ANC's prerogative when we get to our RFP stage, and the ANC is evaluating proposals as well as talking to developers and talking back to the community to see which development proposal we like. So I'm only saying this to say, Peter, it's baked into the process. If you want to emphasize that, I don't have an objection because it is baked into the process.
I think it would be important to emphasize it and also to acknowledge what we've been hearing from the community.
So I'm fine with
Sure,
it.
Nash, okay.
I would prefer we not use it, Peter, and I have two problems with it. Number one, you say reject, and I would prefer, if we're going to do it, is to say oppose, because we don't have the power to reject it. I mean, we're not the city council. Number two, less is more, and the more you put on there, the less power each one has. And Lisa's already said this is going to happen. And so to me, you're diluting the things that I really care about and want to emphasize. So I would prefer that we keep these additional things to a minimum. I worry it's becoming a laundry list and they'll just roll their eyes and, dismiss them all. That's my concern.
To both of you, I'd just say, I mean, if this is a deal breaker for you, then we'll have to hash it out. But I have sympathy for Commissioner Nash's position on this. I want you, Commissioner Lynch, to vote for this proposal. And so if you want it in, I'll take it. I think we could, we might. Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, is it a deal breaker for you? You got to have it or not?
I deeply respect Commissioner Nash's point of view. One of my best friends comes from a family that has plenty of professional folks that bargain for a living. And I think when we're at this stage, we need to have a strong approach to communicating with the city. And I know we've heard from countless community members of their unease and skepticism of this project. So while I respect the point of view, I think we need to keep that language in.
I'm willing to accept it. All right. Are we close on this?
Just two more that came out of the discussion tonight, which I think are important. And basically, this is my youthful oversight. There was several mentions of entertaining capacity for seniors. And if we can offer up some language that our senior population should have programming and space here, I think that would be appropriate.
Does the survey question, don't the survey questions address that? I mean, and we keep saying here and in the previous resolution that we point the city to the survey. I mean, is that not
I'm sure
adequate?
they do. I think it's a important enough topic that we emphasize it here for the developers that will bid on this project.
Yeah, I do. I think that's true too. Well, Commissioner Lynch, that's fine. I think, again, I think we're larding it up a bit, but I mean, what's your last point? And I'll come back to this.
I'll close on that last point. I sincerely appreciate you taking these points and hearing me out.
That's the last point?
I know this is somewhat comical, and I know it's a long night, but I did receive emails from neighbors, and it has come up tonight. And when I came here earlier today to help you set up, every parking space was taken, the place was packed. And so I'm not saying any decision we should make on parking, but including a comment that parking should be seriously explored with the increased capacity of people that will be here if there is housing.
Commissioner, look, I mean, we mentioned in paragraph 14 of my draft, that underground parking should be considered. Look, we know, and we've known for a long time that parking, especially underground parking, is wicked expensive, and simultaneously it's needed if we're going to have green space. And so that we haven't figured out a way, and a little voluntary commission isn't going to figure out a way. Is the mention in 15 not adequate on underground parking?
Well, I leave that open. I don't have the answer. I think you're right on that. I don't think we have the answer, but at least mentioning maybe alongside the underground parking that there should be substantial consideration given to how parking will look at the site. And we know that's going to happen. So again, this is.
Let me say, again, in the interest of we need to get to Commissioner Sherman's resolution, and we need to get to Commissioner Gore's edits. I will take the senior center. We'll work out language on the senior center thing, and I would ask you to be satisfied with the mention of underground parking in paragraph 15.
That's fine.
Thank you. So I've taken these friendly amendments.
Commissioner, I just procedural point. I want, maybe I'm a little early, but I'd like to request a roll call vote for all these votes just to avoid confusion, because with the hand raising, it can be tricky. So that's just my request.
Yep, we will. Thank you. Commissioner Sherman.
Yeah, Commissioner Gosselin, on the section regarding building height, I would suggest that the language be strengthened with respect to the maximum height that the ANC would support on behalf of our residents, given what we know, not only from this survey, but from the survey that was done in 2019, when only 7 to 9% of the people on the survey said they would support a structure 6 stories or more in height. Only 7 to 9%. So there is virtually no support in the community, as tracked over time, for a building as high as 80 feet, which is the maximum height that the new proposed zoning from the district would allow. And I think this is very significant to many members of the community who associate height with a towering structure that would dwarf the surrounding environment. Height is not the only thing. Obviously, the density, it's a 60% maximum density lot occupancy that Office of Planning is also proposing. But height is a significant factor. So I would just urge, in the spirit of this resolution, to strengthen that language.
Well, Commissioner, thank you for that. There are 3 places where we deal with height in this resolution. We deal with it in the second bullet of paragraph 16, which points out the very point you just made, that among ANC respondents, only 13% would accept a building at 80%. We ask for the DEMPED include in the RFP a preference for proposals that concentrate height along Connecticut and respect the scale of adjacent houses. I think the reality is that if I have opinions about this subject, you do too. If we put a firm number in, I suspect we'll lose a number of our colleagues. And so I would say, in the spirit of having a broad support for this versus narrow, I'd like to avoid putting a maximum stories or feet that we'd accept.
So I can understand that in the spirit of seeking to have this resolution enjoy the support it needs to pass. And I understand the fate of the resolution that I'm proposing tonight. I can count the votes. I do think it's very important, however, to honor the neighborhood voice on any specific issue to the extent we can do that. And
Well, Commissioner, it may not be adequate honoring for this audience or for you, but I originally wrote this resolution as a single thing, as a single resolution, convey the survey results and put forward my thoughts about what the next steps should look like. I was very sensitive to the criticism that I was burying the lead if we put the two things together. And we have conveyed all of these results, and particularly the ones about building height in the resolution we passed last Wednesday. And this resolution cites the sort of top lines here. And so I think we asked for all the deficiencies of the survey, we asked the central questions, we got answers, and we conveyed them. On next steps, I think that we've done an adequate job here, and I just assume stay with what we've got. Thank you.
So just to add the point that I think that if in fact the prior resolution transmitted the results, this resolution is transmitting the ANC's official position on the results. And as a consequence of that, this is the resolution that is going to get great weight with regard to the specifics that we're suggesting DEMPED and OP, but DEMPED in particular take into account. So I think it behooves us to, I'll just say it again and I'll stop. It behooves us to strengthen this based on what we know from very strong, persistent community sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, you mentioned great weight. The truth is that this will only get great weight to the extent that we are unanimous or close to unanimous, and we will not be unanimous. One of the things that is, it's strange, but one of the big learns from having this job for 3 years is that I have to get a majority. That's the sandbox I'm playing in. I have to get a majority on this commission. And we will not have that or anything. We will not have anything like a substantial majority without if we go beyond where I think we are right now. Thank you.
Let me ask Commissioner Sherman a question. What would your suggested language be?
Well, if I'm reading the draft that everyone else is looking at, where it appears with regard to OP having already responded by reducing the original proposed maximum possible height. And that, again, the reduction is an adjustment in the right direction. And then there's a bullet, which Commissioner Gosselin just referred to, in which he cites the survey data. I would say that in the resolve section, that based on this survey data, the ANC is requesting that DEMPED specify a maximum building height of 60 feet.
Commissioner, I understand the logic of your position. How about a compromise at 70?
May I ask a question? Sure. And Commissioner Sherman, I also respect your opinion and wonder what you think of the 0.8 I have on my resolution, which is we urge any developer to concentrate building height closest to Connecticut Avenue and the parts of Northampton and McKinley Streets near Safeway and Wells Fargo away from residential houses. We urge developers to utilize modest building height that will not overwhelm those neighbors. And I
respect that. I think it just needs to be more specific.
Well, why are we not using the referring the OP DEMPED to the survey results in this particular section?
We do. I mean, I mean, the second bullet, paragraph 16 points out that,
Because we're pointing out community preferences, right?
right.
From the survey results.
What we're doing, I understand, is stating our official position
Right,
based
but
on the
based
survey.
on- exactly.
Right. So I'm suggesting that based on the survey results, our official position articulate a maximum building height of 60
And
feet.
what was in terms of the survey, what was the respondents? What was the number one, number two response on that question? Do you remember?
Well,
Yeah, right here. It was, I mean, among respondents,
I'll pull up the data for you. I'll tell you.
So it says more than 15% said they would support a maximum building height of 80 feet, 6 to 7 stories.
only slightly more than 15% of all respondents, and only 13% of ANC respondents would support a building height of 80.
70% of respondents in the ANC are opposed to building heights above 60 feet. 70%.
Commissioner Goslin, could I ask a question? This is sort of a hypothetical. If we were to include Commissioner Sherman's request right now, at least, again, starting from a stronger standpoint in the community's eyes, we may not get listened to. It may not be adhered to, but at least we've asked for something that the community has expressed interest in. And in terms of my neighbors on Northampton and McKinley, I know they would appreciate that.
So
just putting that out there.
my 2 cents would be to combine Commissioner Lynch with the survey results. And this is
Commissioner Lynch is already in here. This is Commissioner Lynch's number.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, okay, his number 18, and just combine that with what the survey actually says, what the community said in the survey. So my problem with the resolution is that I still think we're getting into trying to interpret what the community says. If you put that in there and then just add what their height preference is in the survey, just put that in the resolution.
I'm happy to do that. I think that
that's
Commissioner
private.
Sherman is
No,
not going to be satisfied with that. That's
it
right.
won't, because we understand how these are read by the district.
Yeah.
It's what we as a commission say about the survey data, not what the survey data say.
Well, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna meet meet in the middle on that. I mean, what the survey data is gonna give them the top response rate, which you said is 6 to 7 stories, right? Or what is the top response rate?
But just as the commission with Commissioner Gosselin's resolution is prepared to articulate a position that contradicts the survey data, in this particular case, I'm asking that we articulate a position that accords with the survey data.
I think we are talking about the same thing. We have a different way of structuring it. Yes, we are. I am saying, what does and I'll ask again, what does the data say in terms of height? Where are we in terms of height in the survey? What, you remember what question?
70% of ANC respondents are opposed to building heights exceeding 60 feet.
I get that.
Right.
What are they? We gave a multitude of categories, right?
So
We said 3 to 4 stories, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, or whatever. What I want to know is which category does the community prefer? That's what I'm asking.
Well, the community was given a range, and therefore its responses cut across a range, right? So it isn't one single one. I can
Which
read them.
response got the highest percentage?
Building heights that don't exceed 3 to 4 stories.
Okay.
It's going to go in the wrong direction.
Commissioner. Let me say, I mean, I'm happy to put something in about how we have a disagreement about height, but I mean, I am not, we will lose votes on this commission if we put in 70 feet or 60 feet. We will lose votes, and I would much rather keep votes on this resolution. So I don't think I'm going to be able to satisfy you on this.
Commissioner Sherman, are you going to vote for this resolution if that height restriction is placed in there?
Does that matter?
Yeah. Yes, it
Why
does.
does it matter?
It does matter.
I would intend to
Because Mr.
strengthen,
Gu-
I would intend to use whatever influence I can to strengthen whatever resolution gets passed by the commission, whether I vote for it at the end of the day or not.
Well, I take that as a no, and with
Well, it doesn't
Commissioner,
have to be taken as a yes or a no. The merits of the case suggest themselves.
but Commissioner Gosselin's afraid of losing votes if we go. that way.
I can understand that. I'm afraid that yes, I can understand he's afraid of losing votes.
So give me your language again, Commissioner Sherman.
That the commission requests that a DEMPED factor into the RFP that building height should not exceed 60 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't have, the only issue that I have with that language and Commissioner Gosselin's language, which I've told Commissioner Gosselin, is factoring it into the RFP. Because I believe that is already part of the process. It's the same thing I kind of told Commissioner Lynch with the other part of it. I just think we have to be very careful about how we word that. That's my only hang up. And, if we're conveying what the community feels, I don't, have a problem with putting what the number 1 height is that the community is recommending. I'm just wanting to make sure that we have the language expressed to DEMPED correctly, in a way that's not going to hamstring the process and that they're going to have flexibility.
But Commissioner Gore, I think the reality is Commissioner Sherman quite rightly asks that this commission take a position on this issue of height. And just reciting what the community did is a punt that we just, is not going to satisfy him. And I understand why it doesn't satisfy him. And I don't think that I can satisfy you or much of this audience on this issue. So I don't think there's a way. Reciting again or in more detail the survey findings gets us saying what a lot of the community said. It doesn't get us saying what our view is on it. And I believe that's what Commissioner Sherman wants us to say. So,
Commissioners, could I make a point? I think these conversations, these meetings have been extraordinarily difficult over the last couple weeks and years. And we just had a moment where I think we were nearly on board. And I know, again, that my residents in this SMD on Northampton and McKinley would appreciate the idea that Commissioner Sherman has conveyed. I'd also like to point out just one more time, the city does not have to listen to this point, but this is one of the first times that this commission has come together around a very divisive topic. And I greatly appreciate you, Commissioner Gosselin, for all the work that you've done and all the other commissioners. I hope with a half hour left, we could maybe craft some language that at least gets to what Commissioner Sherman is trying to do and what I think we all in some way may believe in.
Let me, Commissioner Ferguson, let me go to you. Nothing?
I mean, I've tried to give feedback to resolutions promptly. Commissioner Sherman, I gave you thorough, questions. I had concerns. I've tried to give every person response, because, I don't think it's ideal to add lots of, it's like a Christmas tree. Everyone adds an ornament at the last minute. And so I like to have time to review things. So, I mean, none of these amendments, I'm taking them in, but I don't think we should speculate on how people are going to vote. I think we should put forward the best resolution we think we can have. We have the vote. And, it's okay to me if at the end of the day we don't agree. I wish we would. I think we've all worked really hard to try to find something we can agree on. And that is best for the community as we each see it. Every single member district is different. We all have different constituencies. So that's my view. I'm very mindful. Really, to me, the top priority here is we got to be out of here at 8:30. We have custodial staff that need to leave. And as important as this is, we just can't impose our dysfunction on people who need to get home and take the bus home. So I'm eager for a rapid vote, and we got just try to do the best we can.
let me just try to wrap this up. I mean, I would, not that this is going to cut mustard with you, but one of the ironies here is that last year when we were coming up on the resolution for the small area plan, I had the hallucinatory notion that I could strike a grand bargain. And the grand bargain was that in return for upping zoning along Connecticut Avenue, we would agree to a 60-foot maximum with anything over 60 feet returned to the community for some sort of community review process. I think the reality is today with this commission that I will lose votes if I accept Commissioner Sherman's proposal. I hope Commissioner Lynch will stick with us. I understand the concern that his neighbors have about massing, and I think we addressed that. But among other things, I'm afraid I'll lose Commissioner Ferguson's vote. So I respectfully.
I got some more.
All right, then you. What?
You good? Okay, let me give another compromise. So Commissioner Sherman is asking for number 14 to change preference to request and from 80 feet to 60 feet on block 14, paragraph 14. I can agree with that. I'll agree with that. The other, this is yours, your number 14. Well, this might be the oldest, the graph about the building heights.
Yeah. Okay.
The one thing I would ask is that, let me see, number 15, if you could, that deals with the RFP development
Yes.
proposal and preference for the developer coming up with retaining stewardship of the entire
Yes,
community.
yes.
I just think that is legally, we're not there. Could you adopt my language where we ask for DMPED, OP, OAG to come up with something?
As I've said to you, I can. I think
Okay.
I think you ought to read your language, since I mean that is in yet another one of these things. So that's the language on.
Do you have my draft?
Yeah, I do.
I brought everybody's copies but mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's this you're talking about, right?
Yes, so my compromise to him on the language regarding surplusing was the ANC further acknowledges that the survey indicated a strong community concern regarding surplusing the site. The commission has had previous discussions with DMPED and the Office of the Attorney General on this issue. DMPED specifically opined that any development in which the district contributes public land for a low price or long-term lease in return for the production of affordable housing would require the property to be surplus. And just as an ad lib, they said whether that was nonprofit, land trust, regardless. Then I say the commission urges the council, DMPED and OAG to immediately explore alternative legal options to convey public land for the production of affordable housing that allows for greater public control.
I can certainly accept that as a replacement for my current version, paragraph 19.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I just so I understand, I mean, I've just heard you, Commissioner Gore, say that you can accept,
Commissioner Sherman's.
so you're going to accept 60 feet. You'll give me that language? Is that what you said?
That's my compromise.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then in the search for a solid majority, I agree to it. I mean, we're going to have to do a bunch of work, and we'll get it up as fast as we can on the website. But can I move that we approve the resolution with the friendly amendments from Commissioner Lynch, from Commissioner Sherman, and from Chair Gore? I move this. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay.
Commissioners, let's do a roll call vote. Starting from the left, Commissioner Lynch,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Gosselin.
Yes.
Commissioner Gore, yes. Commissioner Sherman,
No.
Commissioner Ferguson.
No.
Wait, I couldn't hear.
I got it. I got it.
Who knows?
No for Ferguson.
The vote is 4 yay, 2 nay, and 0 abstentions. The resolution, there was no abstention.
I'm sorry,
The resolution carries.
Zeldin does not vote.
Yeah, he's not here. Commissioner Lynch.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'll be submitting a concurring opinion with the resolution as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Commissioner Sherman, you want to
And
do?
and
the
I'll
resolution?
be submitting a dissenting opinion.
Okay. If you guys can get your opinions by the end of the week so that we can turn those in with the resolution going to DMPEG.
That's fine.
Is that good? Okay, thank
Thank you.
you.
So now we turn to Commissioner Sherman.
Commissioner Sherman.
So it's a bit anticlimactic, of course. That being said, let me mention a few things, and then I will speak to my draft resolution. As my constituents know, many of them are in the room and some are online. I pledged when I ran, and now that I'm serving, to vote their views, not my own. I am when I campaigned last fall, end of summer into fall, and I knocked on every door in our single member district, and I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of our constituents, I heard consistently that they felt that they did not have a voice on this ANC. They felt that they were not informed, they were not engaged, and as a consequence of those two, not heard. And I pledged to them that I would do everything that would be humanly possible to do to inform, engage, and hear their views. And having now tried to do that over the last 10 months, 11 months, by doing a weekly newsletter that goes to about 800 of my constituents, by holding periodic Zoom calls for the community, by having my neighborhood liaisons, there are 24 of them, who are in touch with our neighbors locally, by walking the streets, by listening to people. I feel as though I've done everything I possibly can since this particular topic came up before the commission in full force in June to advise my constituents, inform my constituents as to what's happening, what's being proposed, what is the city doing. And based on that, I then have to sit back and respect their views when they express those views, because I have to assume that they know what I know. I have to assume that they have as refined a moral or ethical sensibility as I have. I have to assume that I'm no smarter, I'm no wiser than my constituents. If the principle of the advisory neighborhood commissions as set forth in the Home Rule Act is to actually be borne out in practice, which is that this is as close as we get to participatory democracy. We on the commission are not council members. We're commissioners. There's no role for us to adjudicate broader district issues. The law is very clear that our remit is restricted to our commission area. Our first responsibility is to our residents. Our primary job is to be the neighborhood voice. So it is difficult for me to accept a resolution that does not reflect the neighborhood voice when our job is to be the neighborhood voice. So let me just talk briefly about the resolution because I recognize that it has very limited shelf life. And that is that in the resolution, I acknowledge also that there are many people in my single member district who support the district's proposed redevelopment of the community center library with housing, including affordable housing. And I have pledged to all my constituents to represent their views. So I'm publicly again stating tonight that I do represent their views. I do hear their views. And as a consequence, my resolution points up the need for us to develop a new community consensus on affordable housing, where we put the housing, how we develop the housing, that notwithstanding everything done up to this point, the fact that we have across the ANC 60 to 37% opposed, and those are the exact same numbers in my single member district, 60 to 37% opposed. We do not have the consensus to move forward if in fact we are going to be the neighborhood voice. So we need to halt, we need to stop, and we need to make a new effort at bringing all sides, both sides, all sides together for a set of options for affordable housing that will work for the community as a whole. That's all my resolution does. And I submitted it based again on the view that it is your voice, our neighbors' voices. This is your community. It's not ours, it's yours. And I feel that we have to pay extreme deference to you and where you are and how you express your views. And I would say one final thing about the survey. There has, and I've said this now 2 or 3 times, but not everybody has been in the room. I've gone back and I've looked at every survey done in recent history in this ANC, namely the 2017 and 2019 surveys that Jerry Mallitz did when he was on the commission and then separately. And I've looked at work done across this city, and I can see no parallel example where 2,836 people in a month's time responded voluntarily to a community survey, including 2,297 in our ANC. This is not just another data point. This is 2,836 data points plus, which means that by orders of magnitude, this carries greater weight in anyone's decision-making, in my view. It certainly does in mine. I'll be even more specific. 495 to be exact of my constituents took the survey, representing about 30% of all adults or about 40% of all households, because in some cases, one household submitted a survey. A couple, man and wife, husband and wife, they submitted it together. If I went out tomorrow and we once again leafleted the neighborhood to solicit additional responses, I doubt that we would get many more than that. Because at some point, when you do a voluntary survey, you get what the community is willing to give. So to ask that 80% of people respond, it's never going to happen. And the other thing about it is that this commission, in all of its decisions over time, has based everything it's done on the expressed community sentiment, meaning voluntary action. You're here tonight, not because somebody hogtied you and brought you in here, but because you voluntarily took it upon yourselves to come in. Same thing holds for participation in task forces. Same thing holds when people write to the commission or when they call one of us on the phone and engage us in conversation. It's voluntary participation. And that's what the survey was. 2,300 people in this ANC. That's 2,300 people talking to this ANC on average for 11 and a half minutes about their preferences. So these are not numbers. These are people. These are neighbors who took it upon themselves to talk to us. So I asked myself as one commissioner, by what right, on what authority do I impose my judgment, my view on them, when again, we've done everything we believe possible to advise people of the particulars, to provide them with background, to explain to them what's going on. At that point, we then listen to our constituents. That's what my resolution is based on. And I believe, by the way, it's also what harmony in this community is based on. Because if the soundings I did during the campaign last fall and what I continue to hear from my constituents is any indication, the people in this community want to be heard. And by being heard, it's not merely having somebody sit and listen for a few minutes, it's taking to heart what they say and acting on it. And therefore, again, my resolution is upholding those principles. So that's my speech on the resolution, and I understand where it's likely to go. I've posted it on the listserv. It's up on our website. Everybody can read it. And it's in that spirit that of service to the community and deference to the democratic voice of this community that I have submitted it and presented for your consideration. I do move it. I move it to be considered. Yeah. I do move, yes. That'd be considered, yes.
Go on and make the motion.
I move that my resolution be considered for discussion by the commission.
Let me change your motion a little bit.
Okay.
You want your resolution adopted, right?
Well, I want it adopted, yes.
Okay, so that I moved.
I suppose my realism was already creeping in.
I second. Commissioner Ferguson.
Thank you, Bruce. I enjoyed reading your vision and your resolution. I had questions about how it would work in practice. You know, I tried to give you point by point responses and asked some questions about, you know, what terms meant, how it worked. You know, we have 7 minutes left in our resolution, but I am genuinely curious to hear your view. Even later, obviously not now in 7 minutes, but I didn't hear back from you, but I understood why. You have limited time and, you know, like you said, you can count numbers, but I really, again, appreciate it and commend every commissioner who put forward a vision. And I genuinely thank you all for the resolutions, even if they voted yes or no.
No, I take the comment on board. Others may want to.
Commissioners, any discussion? Commissioner Lynch?
Commissioner Sherman, thank you for your thoughts. As an add-on to that, I was emailing with one of our dedicated constituents just this weekend. There was a housing unit that went up in flames, and the Washington Post reported that the people in that housing unit were happy that it went up in flames so that they wouldn't live there any longer. We have been pressured tremendously by the mayor's city agencies, and I think we've responded admirably. Bruce's response is an admirable response, although some may disagree with it. You have a duty to still continue to press this administration to do what it needs to help people that are suffering from housing insecurity. One of the first resolutions we passed was asking them not to kick out homeless people on McPherson Square. That week they did it, and those people are still homeless. And so we ought to consider that too. We are just ANC commissioners, and we only have great weight. Thank you, Commissioner Sherman, for your work.
Any other commissioner comments?
I would just say that I mean, one of the things that's dazzling about Commissioner Sherman is the amount of work he puts in. And I'm very respectful of that. I did not run on a pledge to just accept survey results as is. I know that will be taken as some sort of arrogance, but it seems to me that every elected official, no matter what level, is required to do their best job to interpret how they should represent their constituents. And as impressive as the turnout, as the response rate was for this survey, and as much as I sympathize with the real anger in this community about the way we've been treated by the city, I do not think it wise to, I accept that we needed to pass on, and we needed to pass on without filtering the survey results, but I do not accept that our obligation is simply to do that and accept them and pursue just those. Thank you.
Let me just respond to that by saying that my approach to serving my constituents is, of course, to listen, inform, engage, and hear them. And when I noted that I was also hearing the minority view, I could have just as easily written a resolution that said the majority says no, end of story. I didn't do that because I've pledged to all my constituents to represent them, to listen to them. I cited the example last week of Jeff Gordon, who was sitting where Peja Neskovich is sitting right now. And I mentioned that he and his wife had both written to me and said, we're in the minority. We recognize that in this single member district, but we just want you to know that we hope you'll continue to represent us. And I said I would. So I crafted a resolution that acknowledges the minority while it acknowledges the majority and seeks to bring the two sides together. So this isn't just merely passing through the voice of the community. However, even that task is one that follows diligent effort to inform people so they know what they're voting on, so they know what they're opining on, so they know what's happening. So just to be clear about what that involves and how I see it and how I see the importance of it.
Okay, commissioners, I call for the vote. Commissioner Nash, you want to make one last comment?
All right, I'll try to be brief. Of course, I do not agree that there is such a thing as a community voice. One thing I've learned from these meetings is that there are community voices, many voices. And so you're reifying an abstraction when you talk about the voice. Also, I disagree with Commissioner Sherman that with his characterization of the rest of us. For question 9 of my SMD, there is a slight favor plurality for housing. So I don't see how he can say that I am disregarding that. I am trying to do the same thing that I will take him at his word he's trying to do, which is to find some kind of common ground here. And I've already spoken on the way I'm going to do that. So, and I could go on and on with ways that I disagree with Commissioner Sherman, but I also want to salute him. He does work very hard, and he worked very hard on the survey that 5 out of 6 people did not take.
Okay, commissioners, I call for the vote. And we're going to do a roll call vote. Commissioner Lynch,
Abstain.
Commissioner Nash.
No.
Commissioner Gosselin.
No.
Commissioner Gore, no. Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson.
No.
Okay, the motion fails. Vote is 1 yay, 1, 2, 3, 4 nays, and 1 abstention. Would you like to, you sure? Okay, with that, I'm going to ask commissioners that we move the bioretention cells, street light alley update, transportation committee to the next meeting, which would be January 8th. And during that meeting, we'll vote on the dates for the entire FY24 and start up with new commission, new year. Any quick announcements, very quick?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to announce that there is a People for Fairness Coalition memorial and vigil for everyone in the district who has died while homeless. It's a beautiful service. I go to it every year, and it starts at 4 p.m. Luther Place Memorial Church, Wednesday, December 20th. This is the longest night of the year. And it also continues the next day at Church of the Epiphany, 1245. That's 1317 G Street. This is an event organized by homeless or formerly homeless people, the People for Fairness Coalition. It's a beautiful way to remember. And you lose 17 years of life when you do not have a place to live. So people are dying in our street.
Any other announcements?
I'm going to pull out the rack back there, and I'd ask everybody to put up their chairs, and commissioners, I would ask you to bring your microphones over to the big box where Ken Vasey is right now, and let us put them away. We need to be out of here by 9.
8:32 commission, we are adjourned. Thank you.